How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Tom Lee of Fundstrat just spoke to Natalie Burnell. He talks about the crypto market. He talks about the looming recession. He talks about how Bitcoin's actually been a better hedge than a lot of other assets. And he goes through what he thinks is going to rise for the next 12 years, or what could rise for the next 12 years in a row. I'm just going to play this for you, let you form your own decisions. But he is quite bullish on Bitcoin, saying it could hit $150,000 this year. So stay through to the end of the video. Also, if you want to trade crypto, there is a link to Margex underneath the video. Bitcoin is under 65,000 at the time of this recording. Maybe you think it's going to keep on falling down, or maybe you think that this is a decent time to go long the market. So definitely check out that link underneath the video, and let's get into the content.
All right, I know that you're very bullish, but I have a lot of viewers that are actually feeling very bearish right now, not just about Bitcoin, but really the macroeconomic environment. They think that a recession is looming, that we could really hit some sort of a wall. On the other side of it, I mean, they have to come in and print, right? Because they're going to need to keep the whole thing propped up. What is your take? What do you say to the people that are feeling very bearish?
I'd understand why people are bearish, because, the Fed essentially was planning to give the economy a heart attack by raising rates at the fastest pace ever to kill inflation, and how the economy fared was a secondary consideration. But here we are, more than a year after the last hike, and the economy's actually doing pretty well. So there's an expiration of the risk of a recession. And I've been following markets for for more than 3 decades, believe it or not. And so I've experienced and covered many recessions. Recessions rarely happen when markets are all saying a recession is imminent. Markets participants aren't that smart. So the fact that so many people think a recession is imminent, and we see it. I mean, we do many meetings with clients, institutional investors, that view recession as their base case. I mean, that would just mean everyone suddenly is a great forecaster of the economy. And as you know, nobody can forecast the economy. We don't try to forecast the economy, but the only reason we think a recession is less likely is because everybody thinks a recession is likely. But logically, there are things weakening. I mean, I guess I'm not going to try to ignore it. We know consumers are running out of excess savings, and the job market is getting softer. And we know housing has become a very difficult market. It's unaffordable, and then there's parts of the country where there's huge rise in inventory. Durable goods spending, like on appliances and cars, I mean, it's absolutely tanking. I mean, used car prices are going to fall a lot. And there's an inventory correction. I mean, there's been a lot of destocking of excess goods inventory. Those are what's causing the slowdown. But the mistake I think anyone will make is to say, oh, well, that means this is going to lead to a recession. I mean, number one, housing, durable goods, and inventory are all extremely rate sensitive. So the minute the Fed starts cutting, all of those reverse. But second, the bond market, credit markets, corporate bond spreads, quality spreads, things that you think should be blowing out if there was a recession are absolutely mid-cycle. And look at the stock market. I mean, so I would say if someone is saying that they think a recession's imminent and they're bearish, they're shouting at the market. I mean, I don't know anyone who's made money trying to listen to an economist to bet on risk markets. It's really the wrong way to invest.
Does the current state of the economy concern you, given that so many people are struggling? I don't know if you've seen some of these viral social videos where young people are comparing Walmart grocery bills from 3 years ago, and they're not up the standard, CPI measure. They're up sometimes 100 or 200%. And then on the other side, you have the S&P at all-time highs, and the people who own assets are richer than ever before. And there's this great divide, and we keep spending as a government and increasing the deficits. Like, how does this play out?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of inequality. I think it's really unfair because, as you're pointing out, people who are long assets, or they're lenders or asset owners are benefiting. Now, that does mean, by the way, the best inflation hedge so far has been Bitcoin, right? Because, I mean, if you compare that, you take the Walmart bill and then put the price of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's done a lot better than anything and would have been a good hedge. But, for as long as I've been following markets, I've heard the same argument that 40% of the country is miserable. And if you look at the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances and you build what you think is a normal budget for people, roughly 50% of the country, since I've been following markets, lives paycheck to paycheck. They've never, in fact, 40% of American households are net recipients of transfer payments from governments. So they don't actually pay taxes. They get payments, like whether it's food stamps, et cetera, or assistance. So America has always had this divide, unfortunately, where roughly half the country doesn't pay taxes, is a recipient of transfer payments. And I think when people post these things, they're getting a megaphone, which is great. I mean, I'd love to see a way to figure out how to have people suffer less, but it's always been the case, actually.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners who make this podcast possible.
It's this downward death spiral for commercial real estate and financials.
You mentioned earlier that there's a greater likelihood of a particular candidate getting elected. How do you see that impacting markets? Do you think one person getting elected over another is going to maybe contribute to a crack up boom?
Yeah, I'd say if Trump wins in November, and betting markets show he is, and betting markets have been getting it right for so many of these cycles, so I don't have any reason to doubt it. It's very bullish for small caps because, one, I think it's going to reverse this downward death spiral for commercial real estate and financials. So financials are 40% of the Russell. It's bullish for cyclical stocks, generally speaking, because I think it would lead to less regulation and disbanding a lot of these onerous agencies that have been put in place in the last 4 years. I mean, we've essentially made czars and given huge powers to regulatory agencies that shouldn't be regulating this with such a heavy hand. And to me, that's really bullish for mergers as well. I mean, I think small caps could rise for 12 years. That's what happened in 99. They outperformed for 12 consecutive years. Well, 12 years, not consecutively, but yes, for 12 years.
So he's not really worried about recession because if everyone's screaming it, then it probably won't happen. I think that's probably right. No one saw 2020 coming. No one saw 2008 coming. Some people saw 2000 coming, but generally, if everyone's calling for it, it doesn't quite happen. And the Fed does seem to have landed softly or created a soft landing. Let me know your thoughts, though, underneath the video. Thank you so much. Check out those links to Margex, CoinW, and Blowfin, and I'll see you in the next one.